Hello, everyone, and welcome to Joe's Chat. I'm really excited today to talk to the lovely Claire Rees. She has been on a journey alongside myself, qualifying as a transformational coach, and I really can't wait to share her story, the struggles that she's had, and what led her to do what she does today. But before I let her into the studio, don't forget to subscribe. It's free to subscribe. And what happens when you subscribe, this podcast goes out to more ladies who need to hear it. And while you're there, click the like button. So without further ado, I'm just going to bring her into the studio. Hey, Claire.
Here I am. Hi, Joe. Hi, exquisite transformational coach.
Hello, exquisite transformational coach. Well, we have this.
Certified. Certified. Don't forget the certified. That was important.
We have this, don't we? There's a group of us that all certified at the same time, and our lovely mentor Jo Ellis, she calls us all
Yeah.
exquisite coaches. So whenever we see each other, we go, "Hello, exquisite transformational coach." I love that. So,
Which is a mouthful, but c'est la vie. But it must be said.
so without further ado, Claire, tell the people who are watching what you do, why you do it, and let's chat.
Let's have a chat and just interrupt me if I go off, it's quite interesting. You can see by here my title is Family and Inner Conflict. And it started, I would say, this sort of information, this sort of thing, this title actually started a long time ago without me actually knowing it. And it's all about child alienation. It started with child alienation and what myself and my husband went through. And let me just point out, I am not putting blame on anybody here. This is all research, facts, and it's my side of the story. So I'm not going to blame anybody here because we're all on our own journey. And that's what we've learned, haven't we, through transformational coaching, that everybody's through their own journey. So 10 years ago, we started in court with access order for my husband's daughter. And it was just quite crazy. And I think we were just talking before we started, it's like before we start this transformational journey, even though I don't like the word judgmental, we were very judgmental as people. And why can't people do the same things as what we're thinking? Because it's logical to us. But when you actually dig deeper, and this is the story, is when you dig deeper, is that everybody's got their own journey. And going through child alienation, it's actually four sides to this story. Dr. Phil, I love to watch Dr. Phil and how he delves deeper and how he talks as well. He always says there's three sides to every story. It's your side, it's the other side, and it's the actual truth. But this side is four sides because you've got the paternal family, you've got the maternal family, you've got the child, then you've got the actual truth, and everybody's got their own truth. Now, as a transformational coach, I know that I am not going to solve anybody's problems here, but what we can do as transformational coach is change the mindset. And the things that my husband and I have gone through and said and done, then maybe, and I'm not going back and reflecting and poor me, it's like, but if I had dug deeper into this, we could have dealt with it in a different way, in a more mature way. Because when we go into conflicts are normally when the inner child comes out, doesn't it? It's the inner child of whenever conflicts happen in a family or with friends or anything like that, the inner child comes out and they pointing the finger and the you. And with transformational coaching, the reason I done this was that to change the story, to change how we perceive things. Because when you are going through family conflict, whether it's with children or whether it's with your actual family, the mental state suffers You can become depressed, you can become anxious, you can become lonely. I'll give you some stats here. I looked at this before we actually, last week when we decided to do this talk, that 1 in 4 children are estranged from their family. So that's
Wow.
1 in 4 children are parentally alienated. And this is
Awesome.
a rising epidemic. It's one in
Is,
four.
is that what age group is that? Is that all age groups or is that teens or?
Well, this can be all age group because this is the next bit that I realized that my son was actually alienated from me. Now, you sometimes, like in my case, you don't even know you're actually in this case. You don't even know you're actually in it until you dig deeper. And this is what's happened. My son, as a teenager, he stopped talking to me, and I didn't realize why. There was no rhyme or reason, no rhyme or reason that I knew about. There was, and that's what you find with family estrangement is because it's the inner child, the stop talking is the way of not communicating. And this is a family dynamic.
How old was he? Can I ask?
Yeah, he was 16 when he did this. 16 when he did this.
Still living at home.
Well, he moved out. He went to college. And no, maybe I got the wrong age. It was 17, because at that time as well, I moved to Sweden. And it could have been, the reason could have been that I'd moved to Sweden, so I took away his base. I don't know about that. It's never been spoken about. And this is the other thing with my family dynamics, is that my family dynamics, we don't talk about things. Silence is golden. So the
Mm.
communication is not there. And that's how I was brought up, was that it's a judgmental, and this is the other part of my coaching, and I'm living it. I'm living it both. I'm living the alienation, and I'm living the estrangement from family as well. And the way I've gone through the depression, the anxiety, the feeling of the loneliness, and I'm digging deeper into myself as well, so that I can come out to this beautiful boundaries, happiness, and to know that I've dealt with the situation the best way that I can in my power.
Yeah.
So we'll go back to my son then. Um, was we then recoiled? We then came back to. Then reached out to me. I think it was one drunken night. He said, "Mum, I love you so much, and I'm sorry for everything I did." And we got back. He came back into my life, and then unfortunately last year he went away again. Now, it's It's that family dynamic. Now, when you call about the black sheep of the family, I was always the black sheep of the family, so I never fitted in. Now, when you look at any belongings in any friendship groups or any sort of group that you're in, family groups, it's about belonging, not fitting in. If you belong in that group, then everybody belongs and they are respected for who they are. So when you've got a family dynamic where everybody has to fit in, otherwise you're kicked out, that's when things goes wrong.
Mm.
And another statistic for you, that 1 in 10 families worldwide has somebody in their family that has been estranged, and where that family has actually bullied. And when I say bullied, because they've all got the same story for that person, and that person is estranged. 1 in 10 worldwide. It's a
Wow.
huge statistic, and it's growing. So when you go, and we were talking about this before, like I was brought up in I done health and fitness as well. And when you're sitting there and you've got a client in front of you and you're like, it's so simple. You just eat less. You just
Move more.
change from burgers to a salad. I'm tongue in cheek there, but it's just simple. Why don't you do it? But that's being judgmental, isn't it? Because it's not simple. There's a reason behind it.
Yeah.
So I've gone through lots of coaching. I've had therapy, and then I've done the transformational coaching, which is dug, and we've said this. It's just dug so deep.
Mm.
So deep. And it's just given me this feeling of actual strength, so that
Yeah.
I can help people in the same situation as me to lead a more fulfilled life. Because if you think about it, we can't change other people. We can't change families. We can't change the way people think. We can only change the way we think, feel, and how we actually react to things.
Yeah.
And that for me, the journey that I've been through, that is just gold, because the way you react to things gives you a better outcome in life.
So, do you mind if I ask a question?
You carry on. I'm talking away here. You carry on.
So, I think we've got a bit of a. Can you hear me repeating? I know the echo is gone now. There was a
I
little
can't
echo.
hear anything.
Um, where are you now with your family? Are you reconnected, or is that still ongoing? Is it?
No, it's still ongoing. So with my family, my dad and I stopped speaking, I think about 9 years ago. My mother and I about 4 or 5 years ago. It was after COVID. And then my son, my brother, and then my son. And it's interesting, it's the same story that I get thrown at. Nobody can give me a reason when I ask, um, but they can blame me for the things that I have done wrong.
So they're all talking to each other, and that's why they've got the same story. Your son included is listening to his grandparents.
Yeah, and this is where I realize the alienation comes in, and this is a part of alienation. Because when you've got a family dynamic and that child, no matter, and this is interesting, you asked me a question about how old. It can be from a baby, it can be from like a toddler up to my son's 31 years old. So the age gap is huge. When you look at alienation, that person, for whatever reason, is feeling safe on that side. And I hate saying sides because families shouldn't be sides. We are taught that family is one dynamic.
Mm.
But that child, I'm going to call them child because they are children in the family dynamic. That child then may not even feel safe there, but they are just feeling that is where they are secure. And what I mean secure is because they may be alienated. If they actually take the side of if they come to the parent who's been alienated, okay, the chances are that they are going to be alienated as well. And are they at risk of losing that other family?
Right. So if your son then connects with you again, he then may lose his grandparents and his uncle. Who does he live close to them as well? So it
And
will
he
be.
lives close to them. So they all live in Wales and I live in Sweden. So you just imagine you've got that family dynamic and they're all close and I'm not. So it's a sort of closed mind safety net.
Yeah.
And that's what happens to young children who've been alienated, is that if they've been brought up predominantly as mem, because normally it happens to some children live with their fathers as well, and it can happen it's a huge subject, but let's just say the majority is that the child is living with mum. And even though the child understands right and wrong, it's that safety net.
Mm.
It's that if I go against mum, then I am going to get what I see dad's getting from mum. So the safety net is to stay and be on the side with mum. Now they're
Mm.
not consciously thinking about that either, because this is the life that they're used to. This is the life that they've been brought up to, and it's not going to take them. It's going to take them until I don't know, and it just depends on how that other parent responds. If that other parent is there bad mouthing, if your parents are there bad mouthing each other, that child is going to take a side.
Mm. Is he in contact with his dad?
He's in contact with his dad.
And his dad, has he got anything to do with this alienation?
It it was, I think so, because they're quite close knit. And I just think that when you look at I forgot what I was going to say now.
Sorry, that's
No, no,
me.
no.
In.
I just
I'm just, you know, when you hear this, and I've got a 16-year-old and a 20-year-old of my own, and when I
yeah,
hear that, it just breaks my heart because I automatically put myself in that situation. So I
it's
just really feel for you. Really
yeah,
sorry.
it's you get used to it, which is sad.
Mm,
You know, you get used to it. And it's interesting because my son, at one point, he was actually getting into conflict with my parents and with his dad and with my brother. But he realized then the stronger side was there. And I remember when he did actually stop talking to his dad. And I reached out to his dad and I said, or his dad stopped talking to him, I can't remember. And I reached out to him and I said, I said, he's your firstborn son. And just reach out to him. He was so proud when he was born, and he was a good dad when he was growing up, and he's your firstborn son. I just can't understand how you would not want to speak to your child.
no.
I can't understand that. And his response wasn't a positive one. And I thought, oh, hang on a minute, what's going on here?
Hmm.
What's going on? And it's interesting that when my son was in conflict with my parents, that I never ever badmouthed them. I told him a few things about them, and I said, "Look, this is the way they are. They're your grandparents, um, so you just got to think: is this conflict worth it?" And a coach once said to me, Claire, he said, when you look at people with a closed mindset, they have got a one pint of information. When you look at somebody with an open mindset, they've got a 5 gallon bit of
Right.
information.
Yeah.
So the person who's got the one pint of information are giving you everything that they can give you. They can't give you anymore.
Yeah.
So
That
it's
makes.
about accepting that. And these are the things that I said to my son. He wasn't getting it from them. When he stopped talking to me, it was he wasn't getting that bit of information. I don't exactly know what information he was getting, but I know he wasn't getting the goods information because I can see from experience what my family dynamics are like, it's like always have to speak about somebody else, always should, could, must do, and all that sort of mindset. So I know what sort of mindset they were having.
Mhm.
And it's so interesting. It's so interesting that this is where we are today. And through a lot of therapy, through a lot of coaching, through a lot of digging deeper. And when I did my logical levels as part of the transformational coach with one of the other coaches, I went through that. I went through the family dynamics. I want to dig deeper and I want to figure out that I have done everything in my power other than crossing my boundaries that I could possibly do. And we went through it, and I think she cried more than me.
Well, I'm not surprised. It's just it
Yeah.
hurts my heart thinking about it. I think, when you're a mother yourself, you just put yourself in
Yeah.
that situation when you hear about it. So what
Yeah.
was your childhood like, if you don't mind me asking? What was it like growing up in that family dynamic?
It's interesting to think when I actually look back, it was judgmental.
Hmm.
Um, and there wasn't a connection. I had a better connection with my grandparents than I did with my mother and my father. And it's always you should do this and you should do that. And it was very controlling. And if at any point that, and like I am typical Welsh lass, very mouthy. I've got my opinions, and it wasn't really taken lightly because the dynamics then just clashed, just clashed.
So
I
they wanted
remember,
you to have their
sorry?
opinions. They wanted you to have their opinions, which you didn't have, and that was the clash.
Yes, I had my own opinions.
Go on,
And
carry
I
on.
and I and I am very dynamic, independent. I am an independent person. I don't rely on people. And I felt that it didn't work.
Right, so that's what caused you to feel like the black sheep. Because
Yeah.
have you just got the one brother? Have you?
Yes, I have got the one brother. Yeah,
So he
yeah.
went along with their opinions, I'm guessing, and you
He
didn't.
went along.
Didn't
Yeah.
fit.
I didn't fit in.
You didn't fit their mold. Their
I didn't fit their mold. Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it really came to a head when I left, when I went left and I emigrated to Sweden. And that's when things turned worse because all of a sudden then there's no control.
mm,
There's no control in the family dynamics. I've set free, so to speak, and there's no control anymore. They can't control me anymore. And it was interesting. And that's when things just took a huge slippery slope. And just bear in mind, Joe, like, I did a bit of research on this as well, is that when I left for Sweden, I got something in my throat. When I left for Sweden, I was in my 40s. And everything was great for the first few years. We then had to go into a court for go to court for my husband's daughter as well. 45, 46 started the depression.
mm,
So most probably I was hitting perimenopause. Well, I never had anybody to speak to about perimenopause. I didn't even realize what was happening to me. And um, it was my lowest point.
mm.
Absolutely lowest point. And to go back to the UK, to go back to Wales, it wasn't, nothing was positive.
Yeah,
Leading up to going to visit my family, it was always anxiety because I didn't know what I should do, because I was never told what I should do, but I was told it was the wrong thing when I got back to Sweden, and what I should have done was this. And then we've got the lead up to picking up Richard's daughter, which was toxic, sort of like a month before. So a month before coming to Wales and a month and a few weeks after Wales was just horrendous.
see,
I was so low.
that would have been a horrendous situation anyway, which would have brought you down
Yeah.
anyway. But then when you throw in fluctuating estrogen and progesterone and testosterone and all that
I know.
stuff that goes on with perimenopause, would have just heightened it all. So that's when many women in my support group, when they talk about
Yeah,
anxiety and depression,
yeah,
and like, I've
yeah,
never had it before, I've always coped. And then all of a sudden, it's like this heavy cloud coming over them. And the timing would, it's just, I mean,
it's
it's never a
just
good time to go through that. But then to hit perimenopause and go through all that would have
yeah.
been, can you imagine, would have been just horrendous for you. Bless you.
It was absolutely horrendous. And don't forget, not only was I going through that, then I was living in a new country. I hardly knew the language, so I was building a new life there with my husband. And don't get me wrong, we have had amazing experiences in the last 11 years being in Sweden, but that was always there as well.
Mm,
And I remember I remember the tipping point where I was in a cabin. I was cleaning cabins back then, and I was in a cabin and I just crawled into one of the beds. I
oh, bless.
crawled into one of the beds and I just could not move. And a friend of mine, for some reason, she rang me and I picked up the phone and I said, I'm not right. She said,
Mm,
I'm coming to get you.
oh,
I know, quite emotional. She came to get me, and her and her husband came and picked me up, and took me to her house and put me on the sofa. I spent three or 4 days on that sofa. You don't have to do anything.
mm,
I was waited on hand, foot, and finger for those 3 or 4 days. And then I came back home. And then another friend in the village, when Richard was at work, and she would come because Men don't really get it, do they? Especially, I got a typical Welshman, a typical Welshman, and he's like, can't you just get up and do it? I'll tell you a really funny story now. And another friend came over and she didn't say a word all day. She'd be there. She'd just cook some food for us. She said, as long as you can do one thing, just focus on doing one thing a day. And if that one thing is getting out of bed and getting dressed, that's enough. And she came over every day. She cooked and she cleaned for me. When Richard came, she left. And some days we'd sit at the table drinking tea and she wouldn't even speak. And that's what I needed.
What an amazing friend.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I remember there was this other time, and it wasn't funny at the time, but I could I could just about manage to sort of like text Richard, and I messaged him, I need you. Right. A typical man, he went, oh, but I need you too, and I love you so much. He's thinking like I need you like sexually, and I'm like, no, get home now. It was like, I need you. Not that way. I need somebody. He came home, bless him. I remember he just picked me up in his arms, sat me out on the veranda, and held me like a baby. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to do. And then the shop that we've got in our village is an amazing shop. And he went and got some natural, I can't remember, it begins with a V. You must probably know it, Joe, to calm you down, to stop the anxiety, Val something.
Not Valium. No, you have to,
It
that's the
wasn't Valium because we got it from the shop. We were able to get it was a natural thing. It was from the shop, but it's a natural thing to calm you down. And you're only supposed to take 3 or 4 drops.
that
He
was
gave me he gave me a tablespoon. I slept for 6 hours. I was gone.
He's like, this is great stuff. I'll use this more often.
I'll have to find the name of it. But it was those type of things, and then what then made me want to change was I was sitting on my bed and um Richard and I weren't getting on. We were going through and I can understand why we weren't getting on because of all these hormones and everything that was going through in our life. And we were arguing and arguing, and I just thought, I need relationship help here because I realized what I was going through at that time with Richard was what I'd gone through with the other 2 relationships. I'm like, hang on,
Hmm.
I need to find out these reasons because I'm a learner. I want to I was always wanted to learn. I always liked self-development because I knew I didn't like the family state I was in.
Hmm.
So I wanted to learn. So I had a relationship coach, amazing relationship coach, and wow, just simple things. And that got me on the road then to I had a business coach, which then we done lots of assessments on my personality and things like that, and things that I wanted to change because I wasn't happy with this way, I needed to go this way. We just did so much. And that's when I realized that to like when you're in business or when you're in family conflict or so they are the 2 main things that I've been through is that we really need to dig deeper into ourselves and not find out the reasons to blame, but find out the reasons so we can move forward.
And find out if you've got the same values. I think I find, with if your values
Yes.
aren't matching, then that's a conflict without you even realizing it as well. I've learned that doing this
Yeah.
transformational course and doing like coaching with my 16-year-old son as well because we were having a
Yeah.
bit of conflict. I mean, nothing like what you've been through, but
Yeah.
when we looked at each other's values and realized our
Yeah.
values were different, it
Yeah.
taught me to then, all right, back off. He's not going to do what you're advising him to do because it doesn't
No.
match his values. And since then, our communication has blossomed. And as well, when I was going through
Beautiful.
perimenopause, I was ready to, I had my bags packed. I was going to leave my husband. Like,
Mm.
and it was because of my hormones. And we went for relationship counseling as well.
There you go.
First of all, the guy laughed at us. He's like, because he asked who's having an affair, who's doing what, and none of us was, in normal circumstances doing anything wrong. We
No,
just weren't communicating and telling each other how we were feeling, and what. Well, it was just one of those classic perimenopausal cases. He just had to breathe, and he annoyed me. He didn't have, he couldn't do anything right. I can laugh about it now, but at the time I was
yeah,
like, "Oh my god, why are you so annoying?"
yeah,
So,
yeah, 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 yeah. Why
and
are
then
you walking that way? Do
yeah,
you need to look? Don't look at me.
stop breathing.
You're breathing wrong. It is, and it's just, and it's so interesting you say about values, because when we actually look at our values, and until I done that module, Joe, I realized how I had come into contact with so many people, and I was having a conflict because, like you said, and I'm the same with the nurturers, and we want to help, but we sort of tell people what to do before. Now we
We
don't.
think,
We don't
yeah,
do
we
that
thought
anymore.
we could fix everyone with advice, but yeah, now we
We're
realise.
fixers, aren't we? You know, and I'm very quick. One of my superpowers is I'm very quick at fixing things. I can see how to solve a problem really, really quickly, and Rich is the same as well. But the conflict came was when um I can't fix other people, they can only fix themselves.
Yeah,
And I was trying to fix other people. And I realized when I looked at all my values, and then I looked at, like we are taught not to judge, we got to ask these powerful questions and learn from them as well, from other people, and look at the values and how they align. It's gold. It's
yeah.
absolutely gold. I did the values with my husband, and his values are superpowers. Honestly, undiagnosed ADHD. I'm trying to get him to. He's too scared to go be diagnosed in case they give him drugs.
You have to
I'm like,
take.
you don't have to.
No,
You
you can
don't
get
have to. But
rid
he has to do this on his own terms.
of
And so when I looked at his values and his personality, and looked at my values and my personalities, then I can see where the conflict could
Mm.
arisen. And I think that's where we can actually change our mindset in our family dynamics and in conflict, is when we look at our values, dig deeper into ourselves, look at our behaviors, look at our habits and how they may not be working and how they may be working, what are our strengths and what do we need to work on a little bit more. And one question that I absolutely love during the coaching sessions is, if you are your 85-year-old self now,
Mm.
what would you tell your younger self? Now, so many people that I've spoken to have learnt my story and have said, but my mother is my mother. And I'm not saying to anybody to not to go and disengage from their parents at all, because it's a grief that is unbearable. But you've got to look at it this way, is that you don't owe your mother anything. You owe yourself a life. And one of my coaches said to me, if you were lying on the floor and somebody was hitting your head with a hammer, would you put up with it? Would you fight? And
Absolutely.
that is physical abuse. Mental abuse is the same. If somebody is hammering away at you all the time, how are we going to control what we say, what we do, and our actions to make it better for ourselves? So when we're 85, we can say we did the best that we could with the information that we had.
I did the logical levels with my cousin. I'm sure she won't. I
Yeah,
won't name just in case, but I'm sure she won't mind. And
yeah,
she doesn't speak to her dad. And we went into things in her childhood and how he used to speak to her, and he used
yeah,
to call her stupid
yeah.
and a slut and all kinds of
Oh my gosh.
unimaginable
How
things.
can you do that to a child? It's just, ugh.
And she grew up believing this, even though she said, even though I knew I wasn't, and he was
Mm,
being horrible, it just sticks with you. And she she even now, as a 52-year-old woman, she still has a lack of confidence to go out and speak to people she doesn't know because she thinks she's too stupid, and that she daren't speak to too many of the opposite sex because of the thought of her, it looks slutty, and it's
Yeah,
stuck with her all these years,
it
these
will.
things her dad would say to her. And it's just like, just got to be really careful what you say to your kids. Even, I mean, that was intentional because he's not a nice person. But even when we're nice parents, we just like little comments that you don't
Yeah.
think mean anything just really stick with kids, don't they?
It really can stick. And the difference, though, then is, and this is what I've learned and research shows, is that we will say things. We've got traumas ourselves. We are going to say things to our kids that is going to affect them. What we can actually do then as parents is have that open communication and always say sorry.
Mm,
Always say sorry. And I think, well, I know if my parents knocked on my door, not even knocked on my door, but picked up the phone or tried to call me and just said, "Look, let's wipe the slate clean, let's move forward, and let's have this open communication of what we want to go forward," then my doors are open. Keeping that door open is so important. And my door is always open for my son as well. And
do they
that's what gives me the strength. The door is always open,
do
and
they
I
know
don't blame anybody.
do they know the door is open, Claire?
They know the door is open, yeah.
Okay.
I have, well, it depends what you want to hear as well, isn't it? I've done my bit. I've said the door is open, and my mum reached out to me and she said, "I want to know what I've done wrong." And I said, "Look, mum," I said, "the past is the past. I love you. I love my dad. I love my brother. I love my family. I want to move forward with this. Let's just talk about how we can move forward and how we can fix things moving forward into the future." And she went, "Oh, I need to think about this." And I never heard from her again.
Well, how long ago was that?
That was about 2 years ago.
Wow.
That was about 2 years ago. And when my son came back into my life, and I said to him, and he agreed. He said, I'm safe. I'm not going to judge you for anything you did. You can say anything in the world you want to me, and if I go down the road of I'm judging, because don't forget, I've been brought up in a judgmental family, so I'm gonna judge. It's instinct, it's in me, you know. So I always say to people, especially in my coaching sessions when I'm coaching, I'm like, I do not I do not intend to judge you. If you feel judged, let me know so I can change my way, my questioning. And and um, and I've said, I won't judge you. I'm safe. I want to give you a safe place. You can say anything to me. He knows that. He knows that. We had long conversations when he came back into my life.
And how long
Um,
ago was that with your son? Last time you spoke with him?
Last time I spoke to him was, where are we now? We're in June. Um, so no, we're not. We're in July. So only 2025. So October 2023, we spent a fortnight together. And he was going through a rough time then as well. I won't talk about that because that's not my story, but he was going through a rough time then as well. Um, and I felt I was there to support him. But it's interesting is when you are going through these rough times, sometimes you will take things out on the nearest and dearest and the person you feel safe with.
Mm.
And and I just feel he just had to get some aggression out on somebody else because I know he can't get it out on anybody on the family because that won't work.
Well, knowing what you know now after doing
Yeah.
this amazing certification with Joe Ellis,
Yeah.
Transformational Coaching, and you had that 2 weeks together, he's in the same position as he was then, but you're in your position that you are now. What would
Yes.
that 2 weeks look like? Would it look very different? Do you understand my question?
I understand your question, and I think I would have said, "Can I coach you?" And I would have asked the question to coach him, and I would have tried to push him a little bit further. Where I was always walking on eggshells back then, a fear of upsetting it, so upsetting the situation because I just wanted, I wanted my son in my life. So it was just like I was just in that little bit of fear of upsetting things. It happened anyway. It was going to happen, but I think I have more strength now to
Maybe ask the
ask
right
those powerful
questions.
questions, ask the
Yeah,
right
we
questions.
both thought that at the same time. Yeah,
Yeah, ask the right
you would have had
questions.
the tools, wouldn't you, to ask the right questions?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Ask the right question instead of not saying anything
Yeah.
because and this is actually this is quite interesting now because I've just thought about this is that I've been like in the situation is where my family dynamics is that you wouldn't ask those questions, you wouldn't confront it because in fear of what the backlash would be.
Mm.
So I always have that, and I think that's most probably why um with Richard with in our marriage I can be quite defensive, because he's a safe person. I can say exactly what I want to him, and I can be quite wild at him, and he can be quite wild at me as well. But I think it's because that's the only person you can be wild at because you don't feel safe anywhere else. That's
Mm.
interesting because I've just thought of that now. Good question there, Joe.
We're exquisite transformational coaches.
I never see what happened there, everybody. Do you see what she did?
Can I ask you, are you able to talk about Richard's daughter and the court case, or is that are you not
I can
able to?
talk about it from my point of view. I can talk about that from my point of view. And as a stepmom, um, I will. It's Richard's story and his daughter's story, But as from, it's interesting because when a child has been alienated, you have to deal with it in a certain way. And I think for me is I got too involved. I got
Mm.
too involved from my mental health, got too involved as a stepmom. And you would because you want to support that child. You see what's right for that child. Well, she's got her mum, she's got her dad. And in hindsight, stepping back and just supporting Richard, we put our lives on hold for 10 years. We
Mm.
went back and forth court. I would say we had three final court hearings, which each involved at least another two court hearings involved in them. We've spent over £50,000 in court fees. And as it's come out of it now, the court actually put a stop in going back to court anymore because it was doing too much damage to his daughter. And the system is not, from my point of view, the system is not equipped. Kafka's who they're actually um Kafka's who they're court ordered to do like a section 7, so they do an interview with mum, dad, and the child or the children, and they just touch the surface, Joe. They
Mm.
don't dig deep. And then they put a report on what their findings are. They spent 20 minutes with Richard, 20 minutes, and 1 hour with his daughter, and I don't know how long with the mother. And then they put a report which actually then dictates the rest of your life.
Yeah, from 20
And
minutes.
it's ridiculous. And some of the things, they have to be on the fence, and there's just no power in the court system where there's consequences that if you break the court order, then there's consequences. The court never ever carry that through, ever. And our solicitor said the court will never, if the mother or the father breaks the court order, the court won't do anything about it.
No point in having it there in the first place,
So
then.
what's the point in having it? So the system is not made up with it. What's happened in the long run now is that it's the mental not when you've got child alienation, it's not only mental health abuse, mental abuse, it's also financial abuse, because that other parent, whether they're doing it on purpose or whether they're doing it unintentionally because they're trying to, save that child. And normally, alienation comes from a background of dysfunctional families, or they are feeling what's the word? Uh, uh, what's the word? Is when somebody's separated, when somebody
Separation
stops the
anxiety.
relationship. Not separation anxiety. No, it's your fault. You left me. What's the word? It's like
I just
they're taking it out.
putting blame on someone.
They're putting blame on somebody, so they're looking at that sort of picture and that victim mindset rather than putting the focus on the child,
Right.
where a child will deserve both parents in their life. And what happens is when families separate, is mum and dad will put the blame on each other. And mum will say, "Oh, he doesn't feed her, or he doesn't dress her, or he puts it in, the clothes don't match. He doesn't brush her hair." You got to look a man. Sorry. It's like,
Yeah.
I remember when my son was 4 years old and he went on holidays with his dad. I taught him how to pack a suitcase because I knew his father wasn't going to do it. And I was like, if you're hungry, you need to ask dad.
Yeah.
you know, it's those type of things. And the other way around is like the father can actually say, well, she's putting the child into too many activities. She's mollycoddling the child. But what we need to think about here is that you can't control that environment anymore.
No.
You're away
So
from it.
was it a fight over custody then? What was
It
the
was
actual?
not custody, not custody. It was just more of access, so he could get to see his daughter.
So
So
just access.
just picking her up,
Wow.
it was just picking her up was extremely difficult, um, and there was always excuses. There was always other things put in the way, and um, there was, you know, that life was more important than his life. I'm just being very careful what I'm saying here.
Mm.
And so it was a battle to just even get a phone call.
Right. So there's always an
Um,
excuse why she can't come to the phone or why she can't see her and that kind of thing.
every single time, every single time. And what happens then as well is that the the side of the family that doesn't want the contact, they may say the right things. They may say the right things, but a child will read body language.
Hmm.
So you may say to your child, "Go on, you go with dad," but it depends how you say it.
Yeah.
That there could be incidences where it's like, "Oh, well, you go and enjoy your time with your dad," and the child hears that. Well, no, of course, mum wants me to enjoy my time with dad, but it's the whole picture around it. It's what
Hmm.
that child is hearing in the background when you're on the phone, what they're talking about other people, what they're talking about to other people, and then that child can feel unsafe when
Hmm.
they go with the other parent.
So
Oh,
that
look,
thinks she doesn't want to go with dad, but just because of what she's heard and pieced a picture together in her own mind, whether that's the
children
truth
can
or not.
easily be manipulated, can't they? When they're little,
Yeah.
the amount of times you've said, you know, when you've got a little toddler, when they don't want to do something, you can change the way you speak. It's like, right, how am I going to get this child now to get dressed in the morning? You can manipulate the situation with children, and that's what happens. Then the child will think that they've made their own decision.
Hmm.
And that's when it's difficult. I made the choice not to see mum, or I made the choice not to see dad. It's my choice. And the courts and Kafkas will say, well, the child has made a decision and it's the right of the child.
Yeah.
It's the
But they've
child's voice that has to be listened to.
made that
But
choice on
actually, if
false information.
And this is where they're not equipped. They're
Yeah.
not equipped to dig deeper, because when they dig deeper, they will hear the voice of a parent, not a voice of a child. And imagine the children that grow up realizing what's happened to them. Not only then have their childhood been a lie,
Mm.
they lost that relationship with that parent, and then all of a sudden they haven't had a relationship with the other parent. What's going to happen then?
Mm.
They've lost both their parents.
That's going to affect our whole adult life and the
It's
way
going to
she
affect the whole,
children.
yeah, yeah. So then, and these are the things. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of projects out there, Fathers for Rights and families and all this type of thing, that are fighting for a change in the law. Things are changing in the law very slowly. It's not going to help our case. But for my side with transformational coaching, what I want to look at is that people who are going through this and how I can help them and how they can actually deal with it. We dealt with things wrongly at some points. We'd have like dialogues and dialogues of conversations with my husband's ex, and it's just like, don't get into this. You're not going to change your ex's mind when you were with them. How do you think you're going to change their mind when you're not with them? It's not
Yeah.
going to happen. So
There's a
it's
different
about
approach.
a
A different,
completely different approach.
and that's what you're going
Completely different
to coach
approach.
families and family members going through conflict. That's what you're going to coach them. You're going to coach them how to deal with a situation within themselves, how they
Yes.
cope with it, and how they deal with it.
Yeah. 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 And what's going to be right for them. And it's not I'm not going to tell them what's going to be right for them. They're going to figure out what's going to be right for them and how they're going to move on. It's like my husband now, he won't go anywhere. He won't travel. The thought
No.
of getting on a plane is a trigger for him. The thought of traveling triggers him. He's practically a hermit. He hates going anywhere. I said, think about the last time you traveled. What happened? He went back and forth. So, like, we live in Sweden, Spain. It's sunny today, so maybe it's like Spain. We live in Sweden, and his daughter lives in Wales. And for 2 years, because he adhered to the court order, he went back and forth for 2 years. I can't remember how many times, like eight times, to her front door, knocked the door, and never got to see his daughter. The anxiety and the pain and the money that was spent just to do that, it's just trauma. It's just
Mm.
traumatizing. And this, um I just said, 22 million parents in the US and 1 in 4 separated parents in the UK have experienced some form of alienation, and it's on the rise.
It's a
And
lot.
it's on the rise. It's huge. It's huge. And it's just so simply dealt with. It's just so simple. It's not a difficult fix, but everybody needs to want to fix it.
Mm.
So the only thing we can actually do is look at the way that we handle things and how we handle things and what we say and what we do. It's like Kafka's actually tried to change my husband's whole personality, simply because he used to say things like, oh, dad, to his daughter. Instead of saying I am, he said, oh, dad would like. And Kafka's actually said, no, you can't say that, because there was a reason in child abuse cases, a child abuser will normally say dad rather than I. So they tried to change his whole language, and it was just like, this is just like, I think if we look back, it's like, well, hang on a minute, this is who I am, and there's no safeguarding issues. I'm a good dad. I only want to see my daughter. And it's like, where are we going from here? But he tried to change. And then he wasn't himself, so then he wasn't authentic. So
Mm.
then he was criticized for that.
Poor guy. I'm glad he's got you.
I know. We've done, and since I've been doing this transformation, I done one of my case studies on him, and it was transforming. It was Absolutely. And I think I said, in our on our chats on a Thursday, I said with Joe, at the beginning he didn't like it. He was like this coaching BS and all this type of thing. And then the other week he was just like, "Oh, I think I need coaching on this subject now."
It's good. When they start to realise, it's the same with my son. When I first said to
Yeah,
him about doing coaching with him, he's like, "Oh, don't be stupid, mum." You know what
yeah,
teenagers
yeah,
say.
yeah,
But when we got talking and that, and I was like, "Well, this is what coaching is, Joel. Opening the
yeah,
communication." And now he's only 16, so hopefully I've opened his mind, not just to help our relationship, but to realize that things can be done and said and seen in different ways, and that there is a thing as coaching. And so we try and instill this in our kids growing up, so they can grow up dealing with stuff better themselves. Because, like,
absolutely.
going back to the values thing, one of my strong values is independence, because I left
Yeah,
home at 16 and I've traveled through
me
so
too.
many countries. I've always been independent. I've always stood out from the crowd. I didn't care what people thought of me. If, like,
Yeah,
friends at school, if they followed a fashion, I'd wear something different because I didn't want to
yeah,
be the same as everyone else. And that's a really strong value of mine. Whereas my
yeah.
son's is the opposite. He wants to fit in. He wants to see where everyone's
Oh,
going. And he's a bit of a sheep, a bit of a follower, which goes against
yeah,
everything that I valued.
yeah,
And once I realized that this was, well, I knew he always did that, but I thought I could change him from doing that. But once I
yeah,
realized it's a value of his to have a strong circle of friends around him and to feel like part of that, and it was
yeah,
really important to him. And it was,
yeah,
in my mind, he was choosing a college so that he could be with his friends. And in my mind, he should be going to this college because it was better for him, for his independence and for the way he was going. And I was pushing him this way. And the more I was
yeah,
pushing him this way, the more he was going that way. But now I
yeah,
realize why he's going that way. And, you know,
yeah,
I've
yeah.
stopped pushing now and we've started communicating so much better. I mean, I still don't want him to go,
Beautiful.
but, that's
What
my
can
problem. It's not his. It's his value and the reason why. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
like all the
And
way.
I think as well, it's like we with coaching, with transformational coaching, especially, like I said to my stepson, so Richard's got he's got two children by two different relationships. And my stepson and I are really, really close. And I said to him, "Well, Joe, can I coach you?" "Oh, no, no, you're not going to ask me these questions and judge me." And I'm like, coaching isn't about, the sun is really coming over now. I can see him like, I'm gonna go. And I know. And I said, coaching isn't about making assumptions or being judgmental. It's just asking you powerful questions so you can decide for yourself. And he's like, "Oh, right, okay then." And now, if you've got any problem, he's like, "Claire, I need to speak to you. I need to
Yeah.
speak to you because I." And we've realized as well, and he's realized, and it's a beautiful transformation, is that Joe can only do one thing at a time. If he's got if he's got more than one thing to think about, an important thing, I mean, right? And if he's got more than one important thing to think about at a time, he gets overwhelmed and nothing gets done.
Mm,
So for him, it's one step at a time, and he's flourished. You should see it. And I've
excellent.
also with little ones, like I look after a 2-year-old. He calls me Nana Claire, so I've got a bonus family, Joe. So don't feel so like I've made my own non-biological family. I've got a little boy who's 2 years old, and he calls me Nana Claire. And not telling him what to do, actually saying, "Well, what do you think then?" And he'll say, "Oh, let's go and da da da. Okay, what's going to happen if you don't put your shoes on and you walk on that stone? Oh, da da da." And it's just those you can do it from a 2-year-old, you
Love
know.
it. Love it. Yeah.
They know the answers. Even as young as 2, we know the answers. Or it's like, "Can I let you know what happens?" And he's like, "I don't know." And I was like, "Well, can Anna Claire tell you?" "Oh, yes, okay then." So they are making the decisions.
Yeah.
And as a
Brilliant.
2-year-old, you could get through. And it's just,
It's it's reinforcing for them, isn't it? And it's giving them their own identity, and they'll grow up strong
Absolutely.
people, believe, making their choices and their decisions themselves. And sometimes it
Yeah.
might be the wrong decision, but they'll learn quite quickly that that stone bloody hurt my foot. I should have put my shoe on.
I should have put my shoes on, but then our job then as the grown up then is to be there to support them, isn't it? And just make sure, well, no problem. Next time it won't happen. We'll let you know. It's just a beauty. We're so privileged for what we've got here.
Yeah,
So privileged, and I can't wait to get out there and and just see so many transformations, and that's what gives me like the hairs on my
yeah,
arms as well. My arms go up when somebody in a coaching session, you could see the light bulb. And there was this one client of mine, and I was like, just look at that picture. I can't, obviously I can't tell you the whole story. That's going to help you. That picture's going to help you. And all of a sudden she looked at the picture and went, it's going to help me. And I was like, yes, you've got it.
love
It's
it.
like, I loved it. So,
Love
yeah,
it.
and I think I'm going to be one of your experts in your group. I will
Yes,
be.
yes, you'll be an expert in my group, and you're collaborating in my book as well.
I know we've got a book. So I will be launch right now. I'm holding discovery calls, but I'm working more on the launch of my coaching business, which will be launched in September the 1st. Which is perfect then, because then in when we launch the book in January, you said, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Then that'll be another launch. So it's just going to be two launches. It's just going to be absolutely amazing. And it's surprising. I wanted to say this as well. The amount of older women recently, I don't know whether it's just like the universe has opened up or something, but since we've spoken, the amount of older women and I've spoken to, and they've said that they feel the same about their mother. And I never felt good enough. I never felt, I was the black sheep of the family and things like that. But I didn't want to tell anybody how I felt about my mother because she's my mother.
Mm, yeah, it's tricky, isn't it?
It's a tricky one because society says your mother is your mother. You'll only have one mother, and I understand that you will only have one mother, but it doesn't mean that they can mentally abuse you.
No. Well, it's about how your mother makes you feel
Mm.
rather than how you feel about your mother, maybe.
Yeah, yeah,
Worded
yeah.
that way, it sounds like you're not saying anything bad about your mother. Do you know what I mean? Makes it sound better.
Say
Excuse
say
me.
that again.
It's about how your mother makes you feel about you
Yes,
rather than what
yes,
you feel about her, kind of thing.
exactly. Yeah, yes. You can switch it around. Then that's your story, then, isn't it? Well done. Thank you.
And
Yeah,
you've
yeah,
been an expert in my group because, like we both said, when you've got things going on like conflicts and things, when
yeah,
perimenopause hits, then that conflict, that problem seems 100 times bigger. So you being an
yeah.
expert in my group, sure there's plenty of women in there that, are going to benefit from you being an
Oh.
expert. So
It
I really
is, isn't it? It is, and there's that group, and there's another group that I'm in, is over 50s and fabulous, and the amount of story we're not allowed to promote anything in this, and it's like, oh, I can help you, I know I can help you with that one, but we're not allowed to promote it. So to help women in your group is just going to be, I'm just going to be sending them all to your group.
yes, yes, do that because there's 20 coaches in there that can help them, including yourself. So it's going to be
Oh, it's just going to be. I am so looking forward to this journey. And I know it's taken me 20 years, Joe. It's just taken me 20 years to get this qualification. And never too old. I'm 52, so never too old to get something like this underneath our belt. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next 30 years.
yes, me
Yeah,
too.
I'm never going to stop working. 30 to
Me,
40 years.
me too. I'm 57. No, I'm not. I'm 56. I just gave myself an
Don't
extra
do that.
year. 56, and yeah, I never stop learning. I mean, look at all that life experience and wisdom. We've got 50, 52 and 56 years worth of them. So we got to help some
I know,
women on
it's interesting, isn't it? At the age of I remember Joe, my stepson, he was going out, he was 18, he was going out, and his dad was giving him the rundown, and, keep your thumb over your bottle when you're drinking, don't put your drink down, da da da, and don't talk to strangers and all this, and be careful. And he sat there and he said, Dad, just leave me alone. I know exactly what I'm doing. And I went, oh yeah, let
Well,
me know what your secret is then, because I haven't got a clue.
yeah, it's funny, isn't it? When kids grow up a bit, when they're a bit older, they're like, yeah, I should have listened to my
I
mum.
know.
They
I
make me,
know, and he did. He said he said to me the other day, he said, "Oh, Claire, I'm so sorry for all the shit I put you through." And I'm like, "It's okay, Joe. You were growing up." Oh, but
yeah.
I love you, Claire. So I love you too. It's just like he's just a beautiful kid.
Oh, that's lovely to hear.
So we get
Really.
through it. We get through it in the end, Joe. He's 25, going on 26. When they turn 25, there's some sort of change, and
Well, it's a known fact, isn't it? Especially men, when they turn 20, 26, I think is what they say, is when when their brain turns into an adult brain. And you can
yeah,
then
I can see
see
it.
them on an adult level rather than on a teenage level.
Yeah,
Looking
yeah.
forward to it. But I won't wish the years away.
No, don't no. Enjoy these years. They're not my favorite years, but enjoy.
I'll do my best. Now, with my transformational head on, I'll do
You'll
my
be
very
fine. You'll be fine. You're like, no. How are we going to get through this?
what questions can I ask?
Yeah, as they slam the door, isn't it? It's like, how did
Me?
that feel? Was that good for you?
Oh, thanks, Claire, for giving up your time today.
Oh,
So I
you're
really
welcome, Joe.
enjoyed our chat. And I'll see you in 45
Oh,
minutes. All
it
right.
is.
Yes, we've got a
I
meeting today.
know.
Probably mentor. So looking forward to
We're going to
that.
celebrate you, Joe. Yay! I can't wait.
I can't wait. I'll see you then, my love. Thank you so much.
Lots of love. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.